It's time to accelerate. Hi, I'm your host, Andy Paul. Join me as I host conversations with the leading experts in sales, marketing, sales automation, sales process, leadership, management, training, coaching, any resource that I believe to help you accelerate the growth of your sales, your business, and most importantly, you.
Hello, and welcome to Accelerate. Today is Friday, and I've got my usual guest with me today, my special guest, Bridget Gleason. Bridget, how are you today?
Andy, I am doing great. How are you doing?
Good. I'm doing well. So, as our tradition has become, we have to talk about the weather.
We talk about the weather and where we are. And I'm happy to say that I was in Denver the earlier part of the week, and it was beautiful in Denver. I am now back in California, a little foggy, but can't complain. Beautiful weather here.
Yes, and I'm in my New York studio today, and we're trying to shake the last vestige of winter. I mean, it was high. I think it was in the high 40s yesterday. Pretty windy. Felt cold. Today it's going to be 70, but then I'll retreat back to the 40s just in time for me to get on a plane next week and go to California. So
there you go. You'll have a nice diversity of weather when you get here.
That's right. I can say goodbye to it. So today I thought we'd do is talk about your sales stack. And I've been talking to many guests about the sales stack and helping people sort of understand what it is, what it means for their business, what sort of things they should be, tools, having lots of sales technology companies on the show and representatives from there talking about what's new and what's emerging. And so I thought we'd sort of go through what's in your sales stack and maybe start sort of on one end and work our way through it. So what do you guys do for list building? That's at the heart of every sales development team these days. What do you do for list building?
Yeah, so kind of in the lead generation, the pre-contact, things that our SDRs use. We use Datanyze. We use DataFox to help with that, to help identify companies. Those are probably the two big ones that we use today.
And Datanyze specializes in sort of looking at what technologies companies are using, right?
Correct. And that's a really important component for us in qualifying, because our product is for very cloud-friendly, cloud-leaning companies. So some of the technologies, understanding the technologies that they have in advance is a really important qualifier for us. And so that's why Datanyze is a critical tool in our stack.
Right. So they give you visibility into what companies are using what technologies, or maybe have stopped using a technology, or and lots of different data points they can provide you on within a vertical.
Correct.
Excellent. Okay. And DataFox, what do they do for you?
It's also a list building, so it allows you to put in. We use the two of them sort of in combination. So it's a broader, it may be geography, company size. You can put in some other different parameters, and we'll then go get a list of those and then do some enrichment off those lists.
Okay. Do you use anything else to help enrich it?
Yeah, there are different tools that you can use to enrich it that'll go append contact data or different contacts to company names. Okay. And we've experimented with some of those. What we're doing right now, which may seem a little laborious but works really well for us because the data is so accurate, is we outsource to a small group, actually in the Philippines, that they've got their own tools, but then so that they can do it very quickly. Mm-hmm. And then they just ensure the accuracy and make sure there's the right phone number, et cetera. The problem with some of just having it purely automated is it gets outdated so quickly. And what I'm trying to do is make sure that whatever gets into the hands of the salesperson and into our database is constantly refreshed and is up to date and accurate as possible.
And who owns that within your company?
Who owns that group?
Who owns the task of building the list and making sure the contacts are clean and so on?
Well, right now I do.
Okay.
So it falls within my group. I manage, a closing team, but I also manage an SDR team. And it can fall in a lot of different places. I like that at SumoLogic, we work to be borderless. So I work very closely with marketing. I work very closely with sales ops. Sales ops right now doesn't report, or sales ops at SumoLogic doesn't report into me. But it can fall in marketing, it can fall in sales, it can fall in sales operations. It really depends. But I'm the one that's driving this one.
Okay. Yeah, that's why I asked the question, because a lot of times guests will talk about, hey, or companies I work with, hey, it's in sales ops, or hey, it's in marketing, and just sort of wondered where you think it falls most typically.
Yeah. So it depends. I've seen it kind of fall in a variety of different places. To me, it doesn't matter as long as the groups work well together. To me, it doesn't matter. It's just important that the function gets taken care of.
And then who do you use for like contact information, like, discover.org or ZoomInfo or?
Yeah, we use discover.org.
Okay. And so what do they offer that maybe others don't, that you find useful for your particular application?
I think it's just accuracy. It's just accuracy. And Andy, honestly, it kind of goes back and forth. Which one offers the more accurate data? How often do they refresh the data? And our sales ops team is the one that evaluates the tools. I'm a key influencer, and my team is a key influencer, but I don't have the time, me, Bridget, VP of Sales, to go evaluate all the different tools that are out there. I mean, there are hundreds of tools, and they're new and they're changing. So I would have to ask somebody in sales ops why they felt discover.org was the preferable tool at this point in time. Okay. Next year, somebody else may
that's something
climb to the front.
Pretty much be assured of, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, so sort of next layer, and this may be a little bit out of order, but then is your outbound email that your SDRs use. What apps do you use there? Email tracking or a sales development platform, or maybe even a follow-up app of some sort?
Yeah, so we use two there. And I think what's going to happen is they're going to converge. There's a lot of feature overlap, or starting to be feature overlap in some of these sales acceleration tools. So we use Yesware and we use Outreach.
Okay.
And Outreach has a really good sort of cadence that they set up that allows a sales development rep, primarily that's the team that uses it, to, when they get an inbound lead, to schedule the different follow-ups, whether it's an email or a phone call, and really helps to keep track of them. And that's been an issue that I've seen in a more high-velocity sale at any company that I've worked with. So we use Outreach primarily for that piece, and then we use Yesware. Yesware for us, we use more middle of the funnel. So being able to see when people open the email, when they look at attachments, what pages they look at, it's great for templates, and especially for new reps, that they can go and look at, here's a great sort of email template for someone that is a gaming company that's looking at a log management solution. And so those are the two that we've really focused on in terms of kind of the messaging.
But as you said, now we're seeing in that space a lot of convergence and overlap of features, because certainly both applications you mentioned have templatized emails, right?
Yes, and I'll tell you, we get finance is endlessly frustrated with the sales tools that we have, that we want. Are they being used? Who's using them? Why do you have so many? Is it? And they're right. I mean, they have a point, but there's certain functionality that we need, and sometimes we can't get it in a single tool. So that's sort of the endless battle. And it's funny, Andy, I get people pitching me all the time.
Right.
And they'll, in and of themselves, the tools aren't that expensive. Or that's what they'll tell me. This is $5 a seat. It's $20 a seat. It's $60 a seat. these add up.
Oh, I know.
They add up. I mean,
I
you
play
could,
with them. I look at my corporate credit card bill every month. It's like,
exactly.
I'm not using some of these anymore.
Yeah. So again, this is when evaluating a sales stack. This is not a set and forget. And everybody they're gonna want you on a 1-year contract, and there are a lot of them that will only sell annual subscriptions.
Right.
And it's because it's really easy to move. It's becoming a very commoditized field.
Oh yeah, yeah. I can imagine.
So
Well, I guess the question is, that sounds like you use sort of the Yesware application more for your account execs and the outreach more for your SDR team.
yeah, it's not 100%.
I know 100%,
that way.
but it sounds like that.
Yeah, there's some bleed both sides, but I would say that's where the primary those are who the primary audiences are right now.
Yeah, because it sounds like get maybe more in-depth analytics about the open rates and conversion rates and so on with maybe the outreach, which would be really useful for your SDRs. And
Right.
they said you've got your built-up templates and so on for middle of the funnel for your account execs.
Correct.
Okay, cool. All right, so now move on to, obviously, all these integrate with the CRM platform. Presume you guys use Salesforce.
Yeah, and you know what? Here's why, Andy. Here's why. Because Salesforce has the integrations and the network and they've got the community around it. They've got all the apps built in. They've got all the connectors into Salesforce. I love Base CRM. I think is awesome. But given everything we have and everything we've built has all these others that feed into it, it'd be hard for us to move off of Salesforce anytime soon. It sounds like I want to, doesn't it?
Well, I think that the thing these apps have done so brilliantly is that they've, one of the real drawbacks had always been to Salesforce before a lot of these apps came on the scene was getting the data into Salesforce, right? Such a laborious pain to accomplish. But, you front end Salesforce with a lot of these apps, and it's the user interfaces are simpler and easier, and it becomes a great way to get that data in.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, coming to SumoLogic, our Salesforce instance was on the verge of imploding on itself. Mm-hmm. And the danger with a Salesforce and a company that's growing quickly is you keep putting Band-Aid, and it ends up you can't get the data you need out of it. You can't get the visibility. You have to be very deliberate about how you set up your CRM, how you maintain it, how you train around it. The way that people use Salesforce here at SumoLogic and what I need them to do when they convert a lead and what stages mean is different than where they came from, the sales reps came from, and probably different than what it's going to look like where they're going. So the setup and the maintenance and the cleaning have to be ongoing. They have to be ongoing.
And do you do that internally, or do you hire consultants to help you with that?
You can do it internally. And typically the issue is not that the expertise isn't to do it internally. It's just a bandwidth. So we hired these great consultants, Claris Designs, to do that for us. They had to basically sort of clean up and rebuild our instance. Mm-hmm. And now they do just sort of some ongoing maintenance. They've done the internal training. They've trained the sales ops team. But, I can see them as being sort of an ongoing presence at SumoLogic, not to the same extent, but it's important to keep it clean. You got to keep the house clean.
Oh, absolutely. So what do you use for a demonstration tool, if anything?
We use GoToMeeting.
Okay.
And here's one, Andy. Who loves their demo tool?
I haven't heard of anybody be really passionate about one. I'll have to admit to that.
Yeah, I don't know anyone that loves it either. I think there's some room. There's some room there on that one. I mean, I don't have any that I love or would just swear by. I don't know.
It'd be interesting here for people in the audience to provide some input and feedback on that. If they know of anything that they use that they really love for this. I mean, because, increasingly, obviously the virtual demonstration, virtual presentation is here. It's being increasingly used. We now have books being written about how to do it effectively. A great book called Screen to Screen Selling that people should check out if they're doing a lot of that. Just wondering, are there tools out there? If people have it that they really like, let us know. Send me an email, Andy@zerotimeselling.com, and we'll talk about it in another future episode.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd be super curious about that myself.
So what about proposals? What do you use to help prepare proposals?
Well, we use DocuSign, but we don't have any. We don't have anything just to do anything more than that, than sort of the DocuSign type of tool with a proposal.
Which is almost really, so you include like a signature page with your proposals?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're fairly standardized proposals.
We have fairly standardized proposals, right? And the thing that I tell the team here, and I've told it to other teams that I've worked with in the past, a proposal is not the same as a quote. And don't ever send a quote. And the reason I say that is a quote is just the numbers. Mm-hmm. And when you go share that, you're not including any of your differentiators. You're just throwing numbers out there, and you leave it wide open for people to interpret and go shop around and for the temptation to just evaluate based on price. So I make sure that the team here, that anytime they send something using a DocuSign, yes, you've got to have the numbers, but it needs to be a proposal. It needs to include the problem you're solving, how you're doing it, your unique differentiators, and why this company, why now?
Interesting. So what if it's okay. Well, I'm going to think about that for a second. So what if somebody just wants a quote, though?
It doesn't. I don't care. You've got to have more in there. I just think of course, people are going to tell you all the time, I just want this. But our job as salespeople is to run the process and manage the sale and manage the conversation and manage the flow. Mm-hmm. And I think it's an easy temptation just to send numbers. But you always want to include what the differentiators are, why this is a stellar product. These are the key problems that it solves, so that when it does get shared, that there's more context.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I guess I had a different definition of a quote. To me, a proposal is, and just from where I come from with the sales that I've done over the years, and sort of, let's say before I started my own consulting company, these were thick documents, right? We were selling $1 million, multi-million-dollar things. Proposal was, also, let's say a proposal's 20 to 30 pages, and a quote was 5.
So let's say we go with that. Mm-hmm. I would still say with the 5-page quote, it should be a 6-page quote, and have 1 page that's the summary of why.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And always starts. Yeah.
So we're probably saying the same. We're probably saying the same thing. I guess my point is to my team, and they're not sending 100-page proposals. It may be 5 pages. So we don't. Ours isn't. The deals that my team is doing are not, generally speaking, the $1 million deals. They're several $100,000 deals, all the way down to $1,000 deals. So they don't always require, like in a lot of complex sales, a large, voluminous proposal.
Yeah, my point about quotes, well, I always like quotes as I defined them, which is a shorter, let's say 6 pages to go along with your number, is that I have found that the length of time it takes the customer to respond and be ready to respond is tied to the length of the document. You send them. If you send 30 pages, somebody's going to be given the task to go through them, or 100 pages. Whereas you send 5 or 6, you're more likely, as I found, to sort of stay on the flow of what you're trying to accomplish. And so I find you can actually sort of help deals sort of stall a little bit by giving extraneous information that people feel compelled to go through.
Well, Andy, I think you and I have talked about this before. On one of our episodes, if you want to call it that, it sometimes seems like a little bit of a drama. One of my very favorite quotes is a Mark Twain quote. And he said, if I had had more time, something like this, if I had had more time, I would have made it shorter.
Yeah, I sat down to write you a short letter, but I didn't have enough time, so I wrote you a long one instead.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think the same is true here, that brevity, especially in this day and age, being concise and brief is better than being long and wordy. And you're right. It also, I know even for myself, when I get an email that I'm on my computer and I'm scrolling, I go to the next one and I figure, okay, I'm going to have to spend some time and read this one. And you're right, it's going to slow things down. People are going to see a 100-page document and say, okay, let me pull my things together to figure out when I'm going to.
Yeah, let me assign this to the team. Let me put this to committee.
Exactly.
Yeah, we need to appoint 3 people to go look at this and review it. Let's see, anything else we missed? So what about an analytics tool like Insight Squared or something of that nature? Do you guys use something like that?
We don't right now, but it's something that we're looking at. And Insight Squared, I think they're fantastic.
Yeah.
So that would be the one that I would use. Another one we didn't talk about is LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Sales Navigator.
Right.
Super important one.
So how do your people use Sales Navigator?
Well, they use it to identify who in the company might know somebody. They use it all through the funnel. They use it to find out more about people who they're reaching out to, so a little bit of intelligence. They use it to make connections. They use it to understand more about the company. But it's a really, really important one.
So at which step in the process are your SDRs getting involved with the Navigator? So they're going through their list. They're saying, okay, these are the 50 people I need to reach out to today, or however many that number is. And so as their preparation for that, they'll use discover.org, as you talked about. They'll find surface initial names for that and then start digging down using LinkedIn Navigator.
Yeah, because they're going to have a much better chance of reaching somebody if they notice, oh, Bridget's connected to this person. I wonder if she could make the intro. In fact, I got a LinkedIn request last night from somebody who I've met a couple of times. He actually does sell suites for the Warriors basketball team, who they're hot right now.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't know.
Big Warriors fan.
So he works in their company executive sales, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And he said, hey, I noticed you were connected to XYZ, who used to be at SumoLogic, moved on somewhere else. Would you mind making an intro? Now, if he had reached out to him, he probably wouldn't get much of a response. So I sent a quick LinkedIn, hey, Mark, how are you doing? Paul wanted to know if it would be okay if I introduce you. This is what he does. He linked in me last night and said, sure, make the intro. So there's a way that these two people will connect that my guess is he would have ignored it had it not come through someone he knows. So to answer your question, our SDR team use it early on. Our sales team uses it. It's used throughout the process.
So do you have your corporate box for Warriors games?
God, we don't. I really want, those are expensive right now. I
imagine.
Want to do that. And they're almost sold out. So
I would think, right?
Them. Paul Ratner at the Warriors, give him a call. He's, they're doing really well.
Tell him you know Bridget.
Oh, yeah, that'll really get you a big discount.
Big discount.
I'll get you a big discount.
So I guess the last question about the stack is, so the primary driver, and this is sort of interesting because you see this differently in different companies. A lot of companies with these new apps that become part of the sales stack is a lot of the discovery takes place among the reps themselves. And they bring it in. I mean, do you give your reps freedom to discover new apps and start using them, or you're trying to standardize, so that there's not sort of this guerrilla movement that you're not aware of that's happening, and people adapting new apps and.
Andy, am I giving them permission? No, but I'm not stopping them either. I would have to lock them in a closet with no devices and no network to stop them from looking, trying, using, testing. They're salespeople. They're going to go find anything they can to help them sell better. And some of them are more curious and aggressive than others. Mm-hmm. And they'll bring them in and they'll tell the guy next to him, before I know it, I've got like a mini revolution on my hands saying, we need this tool.
I know. So there's a reason I asked the question, which was, what is that next tool that you're hearing about from the team that's going to bubble up to become a part of your stack?
Well, the one that they're all pushing me on right now is this one called Prospector. Try Prospector. And my only issue with that one, this is the latest one that I hear about. And I hear about, there's probably 4 or 5 out on the floor that people are talking about. Prospector, they've been trying to get for a while. And the reason that first of all, it's expensive. There's a lot of overlap with other tools. And they've been chattering about it actually before we got our SDR team. So it's basically just to help them find more contacts. I want them doing less of that and more working on deals, which is actually what they want to do too. But they were trying to solve a short-term problem, and I knew that I needed to solve it differently. So that's the most recent
That's the one. Okay.
But there's a whole boy. Have you heard of any like brand new? We got to have this. Not so much. I mean, a lot of what I see people trying is new CRM systems. People sort of hoping, but then ultimately we're sort of running into the barrier, which is that they want to use these other cool apps that we've talked about here today, and there aren't integrations with their CRM. Correct.
So that's sort of a whole list of CRM systems people talk about that they're, whether it's Pipeline or ProsperWorks or Pipeline Drive, I think, and so on. It's people are really excited. Base, as you talk about, people are really excited about them. Great functionality, cool. Ease of use, but then they say, I want to start using Outreach.io. And it's like, okay, it doesn't interface. There probably is an API if you want to invest the time and money to do it, but it's not a widely integrated thing right now.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So, all right, well, good. Well, that wraps up this episode of Frontline Friday with my guest, Bridget Gleason. And any other closing thoughts before we say goodbye for the day?
Hey, if anybody has any that that they love, I'm always curious also, Andy. So like you said, send them your way, Andy at Zero Time Selling. And
we'll make sure we share it around.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, perfect. Well, Bridget, great as always, and look forward to talking to you next week.
Likewise.
And thank you for everybody for listening.
Thanks for listening to the show. If you like what you heard and want to make sure you don't miss any upcoming episodes, please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or Stitcher.com. For more information about today's guest, visit my website at andypaul.com.